Hi, my name is Marc Tomko, and this is my piece here. I've been a big fan of Hallwalls since I moved here in 2008. Maybe I've been a member throughout the whole, but I know I've maybe missed it sometimes. It's actually this very show and paying your membership at the desk that kind of reminds me to be a member here. But I go to all the events because I'm a huge fan. I started my life as kind of in traditional media, kind of like drawing, painting, sculpture, and then a middle part of my life moved into kind of like animation and video production. But my animation and video production started to very much lean towards kind of a introspective, kind of self-analysis kind of focus. And then I moved back into doing kind of drawings recently, and really focusing on like intuition and trying to have a mindset in which I'm constantly being surprised by what I'm doing. Like something new, unexpected is always happening because I'm kind of denying kind of a leading kind of conscious language kind of decision making when I'm working. I'm kind of more like almost like I'm partially like an audience member watching the thing happen. So this, what you're seeing here is basically like a container. This is a screen and a media player inside of like a wooden box. And it's basically a container. It's like a window into a larger practice that I have right now, which is really, by its nature, like kind of an intuitive practice. So this piece right now is called, my eyes are blind right now because I stared into the light. That's not what the piece is called. That's just what happened. The piece is called 1/3 of 3 sets of 100. So I wrote that sentence over and over trying to make it make sense to a first-time reader. But hopefully what it makes sense is there are 3 sets, there are 100 pictures in this slideshow total, but they consist of decisions made from 3 different sets of 100 where I chose 1/3 of each of the set of 100. So there's basically 33, 33, and then 34 of one of the sets in order to make it 100. So this is what 100 of like one of the sets in here looks like. And my rules I make for myself is I have the feeling that I should sit down and make a thing, and so each set has its own kind of rules. This set is always this size paper, obviously. It's always brushes, and it's always ink. And the only other rules involved is that if I feel like I'm directly rendering something, like I try not to let myself, there are occasional words that happen, and there are occasional things that resemble kind of a cartoon face or some sort of figurative thing happening. But in general, I kind of try to let like those types of direct, intentional kind of communicative images kind of just emerge out of these things. But I try not to celebrate them a moment where an image emerges like more than the whole of it. So like the 3 sets involved in here is this size in black ink. I brought 3 of the set of 100 of the other ones. It is this size, and this is one I just called like multimedia because I kind of didn't set a hard rule for myself on like what kind of medium. So I'm splattering paint on this one. I have crayons on this. I have colored markers on this. So this one was all over the map. And then what's also in here is the first set of these, which I did somewhere around 7 years ago. And there are 33 of this one, which is kind of your crappy packing paper. So this kind of gives evidence to kind of how I'm thinking, like the shitty, I guess I said shitty, didn't I? The shittiest type of paper ever, the unholiest kind of art material ever. Does that open up like kind of the freedom of my intuition, my willingness to kind of cut down on any kind of direct intentionality? I think it did. So this one is all Sharpies on the crappiest paper you can get. So I'm actually like wrapping up the 9th set of 100 right now. And that means that I have some funny idea in my head that like, I'm gonna get to 1,000. And I don't know what that means necessarily. But in the end, so the practice is twofold. I'm always working on maybe a set of one type of 100, or maybe two sets of a type of 100 at a time in my life over the last 7 years, and doing it without thinking. But then I literally separate my kind of like analytical kind of brain, trying to like say sentences to myself about what I notice in these and like have conscious realizations about what's happening in these. That's the second kind of phase for me. So curating the things downward, you know, there's the intuitive producer, and then there's the reducer version of me, which kind of tries to understand and kind of notice things about them. That happens. So I always kind of cut the set of 100 down. I love the number 100 because one drawing is literally 1%. There's something about how your brain can wrap around the number of 100 when it's thinking about how one thing relates to a whole. So that's why I choose 100. And I also choose square because the things rotate as I draw them. Square, or like a circle, doesn't mind if you decide that this is the top on this day. And maybe at some point something in me started, like, so this one obviously, maybe not obviously, started to consider this as the correct orientation. So, you know, what I do is I have them on the computer and I flip them over and over, and I try to see if maybe I have a preference for each one, or if the picture has kind of decided its direct kind of like orientation for me. So I always cut them down, and for the last 3 years I've had this frame here. They've been kind enough here at Hallwalls to kind of let me keep it in the same place, because I kind of like that the object is kind of like always hang, like I think it's cute that this container is kind of always hanging in the same place every year, and it has a different 100 images in it every year, or at least that's amusing to a part of me. The last 2 years ago, I won the Best in Show for this, the first year that I had this box up here, and that was a huge deal for me because I'm kind of doing these things because I'm trying to discover something in myself. I'm trying to surprise myself, and so to be able to get rewarded or recognized for that was really important for me. And then last year was a set of 100, every single one, and this is the first year where it's actually like a curated downward version where it's 33 of 3 sets of 100. So that kind of is a different, to the regular visitor, they probably think, oh, here's this guy doing this thing again. And maybe somebody might have been like, whoa, these are not all 100 of a set. This is actually choices. My choices for this set was I started to find that a lot of the pictures existed in a place where they were not abstract, but they had implications of like maybe figuration in some sort of depth or space. And they existed in some weird tension where they didn't really confirm themselves as images trying to be images. They kind of existed in this amorphous kind of maybe a true space. So that's how I chose these downward, is the ones that I felt like lived in that weird space. Now there are violations, I think in terms of violations, there's violations in this to that idea. Like there's sometimes things that directly look like a cartoon show up. Like that is a hammer. That seems like an abstract boot, you know? So images happen sometimes. There actually are words that happen in here, but they all felt like they kind of worked in a way that kept my brain from making a conclusion and stopping thinking. They kept my brain in this kind of like floaty space of feeling like there's meaning to be seen in it, but not having a clear enough meaning aha moment that makes me stop thinking. So that's kind of why I chose these ones. And I still like them. I have them on a slideshow at home where I kind of get to see a mirror of what's happening here at Hallwalls every day. And, you know, I'm amused. It's mostly for me. I'm trying to surprise myself and see like how all of the art skills I've built in my lifetime, even when I'm not thinking about it, seep out of me.